Hello everyone, today we are on an adventure and our first destination, Genuale. So, if you didn't already guess, we are playing an adventure deck today, but instead of just one simple deck, there's actually going to be multiple today. Of course, because adventure decks matches tend to be very long, we only have 3 games for today. Now, if you haven't watched my previous videos, I haven't actually ever played adventure stuff before this. The deck you see here, well, this is not the very first adventure deck. In my very first attempt I had Escoffier instead of TCG, but I considered the fact that Escoffier's passive skill being in the support zone would fill it up too much. So I decided to replace Escoffier with GG, since GG is a good solo carry as well. The idea, of course, here is that we take well, I didn't want to just copy already existing adventure deck, so I decided to try and make my own, and this was the result. We are running basically Hu Tao style with the Rightful Reward.
I knew you'd miss me.
Nothing that special. As for the adventure locations for this deck, actually both work. If you are against the stall deck, then you want to go for the Tower of Ipimsis, the long funny name. If you are against any other deck that isn't a stall deck, then you want to go for the Genuale, like I did here. And I have to already say, like this, like mentioned, this is basically my first, well, let's put it this way, this was the first adventure deck I actually had success with. The first version with the Escoffier I did not have success with, because I had to like balance out having the Escoffier summon here, trying to get it to activate to disappear from the field. There was just simply too much stuff going on for it to work properly. This version this works decently if you are not against highly aggressive decks or grab decks, because of course grab full counters stall. I mean, you could probably with good Hu Tao bursts you could counter even grab, but the one grab matchup I had, my opponent, I mean double the nasty plus grab talent round 1 is very difficult to answer when you cannot punish them for such plays. Well, anyway, because I know all of the matches today are going to be very long, I'm not going to stop this even once. This replay, at least I'm trying not to stop this even once. We are using in this deck, of course, the Nim stream. I had the idea that if you play it on Hu Tao, you know, you can use the skill and then normal attack or a burst, and that way get the double activation. That was actually part of the original idea I had when making this deck, though that idea didn't really work. You often run out of dice, because instead, you know, with a classic stall deck you almost never run out of dice because you are using all of your dice to stall, of course. By the way, there we had the first adventure completed, Hu Tao now with nice 14 HP. And of course, that does mean it's harder to get that extra damage from the burst for having low HP, but that is anyway just you know, a little bonus. Just a little bonus. Genuale works well with Hu Tao and Rightful Reward, or relatively well. Of course, because we do get the food cards, the Genu Brew, I think. Yeah, Genu Brew, which of course is a good way to collect some stacks for the Rightful Reward. And we get the free fast actions, which are good to, you know, surprise, well, or threaten the Hu Tao burst on our characters. Also, now that we have the Nim stream artifact, this is actually a pretty good artifact, since it's when adventure completed, like right here, damage +1. a very good artifact to have in adventure decks. Also not to mention Genuine Whale when you are running Seymour, which is actually... I think Seymour is one of the better cards you can use with adventure decks. Like, this artifact and Seymour are probably like the two best adventure related cards in the game, in my opinion. After that comes the new card about the Fontaine related art. I had it in the hand previously, but because we are speeding through the games, I missed it there. Maybe, well, we'll probably see it in the later games as well. But there is that one new card that is pretty good for adventure. But like I said, personally I think Nimstream and Seymour are the best ones, because Seymour gives you an idea of what sort of deck your opponent is running, and of course Nimstream can give you 2 stacks of adventure and that +1 damage. Adventures Guild, actually, I'm starting to think it is not necessary to run Adventures Guild if you are running all of the adventure artifact, the 2 cost and the 1 cost Nimstream. If you are running that combo, then Adventure Guild is not actually a necessity for adventure decks. I've come to that conclusion after, like I said, these are my first games playing adventure stuff, so maybe someone with more experience can disagree and point out some good counterpoints to my claims here, but in my personal opinion, Adventurers Guild is not that necessary unless you are like really wanting to proc Genuine Whale, for example, multiple times, or the Tower of... the name of which I cannot remember. Of course, Hu Tao being a good counter to our opponent's deck, because we can continuously burst and heal, and not to mention do large amount of damage, so the shields from Yan Yan aren't actually protecting them that well. Proper GG sacrifice there was intentional. I knew I didn't want to tank all the damage on Hu Tao, so we went for that. Also, you could run also there Genuine Whale procced on Furina, not the ideal scenario. Of course, we would have liked if it procced on Hu Tao, because Hu Tao is the carry here. But it doesn't really matter, now we have an off-field tank with all, well, max HP here. There's, by the way, the new card there, Narcissen Cruise Adventure. This is like after the artifact, after the Seymour. Below those two, this is like the top 3 adventure card in my opinion. HP card and adventure when having all the necessities covered. Of course, in this deck we do not get the HP because we do not have 2 of the same element. Could this disappear? There we go. Because we do not have 2 of the same element, we do not get the heal from that card, but in my following decks we will get full value of that card. And you can see here, my opponent gives up when they realize there's no longer nothing they can do. On to the next adventure. Now this next deck, I have to say, this is the secret sauce. Your opponent will not know what is coming their way when you play this deck. I mean, look at my characters. What comes to mind? What am I playing when you see this combo? You have no clue what this deck is about. But this is in fact an adventure deck. The idea is very simple. Keep Golden Wolf Lord alive while you collect adventure. Of course you want to go for Genuine Whale again, get the Genuine Brew, use that to get stacks on the Yumkasaurus. Like I said, keep Wolf Lord alive, get Wolf Lord's talent. Why? Because the corrosion is guaranteed damage. If your opponent is trying to use bunch of shields and whatnot. Of course, both the Wolf Rod and the Rock Guy are excellent counters for shields. And of course, Wolf Rod with the talent is also good against healing, because all of this damage comes at once in the end phase. And of course, how the corrosion works, you know, it slowly disappears. So you get quite a lot of value from having or just spamming Wolf Lord's skill, even if you don't get any reactions. So this is in fact an adventure deck. And we saw the Narcissan crew card there earlier, and in the first deck, like mentioned, we did not get full value out of it. But the funny part is, with this deck you do get full value out of it. You have two of the same element, so you get the healing. You have the same weapon, because all of these characters use other weapon, so their weapon classification is the same. Also, they have the same faction. These are all monster cards, so you get the full value out of the Narcissan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Narcissan crew card. You get the full value out of it, and here you see why Wolf Rod is good. Like instantaneous 8 damage, actually 9 damage, because Escoffier of course has 11 HP. So instantaneous 9 damage round 1 just by doing 2 skills with the Wolf Rod. Now we can burst Wolf Lord. We have the Geo Resonance to keep Wolf Rod alive. Of course my opponent is being smart, they freeze Wolf Rod. And now, like mentioned, you want to keep Wolf Lord alive. And how you keep it alive? You switch to Rock Guy. You don't really want to go to Yungasaurus until you have gotten some stacks for it. Here we go for Yungasaurus simply to spread the damage so we get maximum value out of the copied Hydro Resonance, which we got from Seymour. Once again proving that Seymour is a top tier card. If you are wondering why I didn't play double Seymour round 1, because we had the chance. 1, so we get more value from Dunyasar, because now we can play it for free. 2, I didn't really feel the need to have 2 Hydro Resonances in my deck, because we are going for the Genu Whale, we are going to get the Genu Brew, like that. Also another good thing about Seymour, when you have double Seymour you need to play just 1 card, not initially in your starting deck, and you immediately gain the 2 stacks and the 2 Genu Brew. Very, very good. Also, if you are wondering what other, we are of course running double Wolf Rod talent and 1 Yungasaurus talent. You could also use Black Serpent talent, but considering the type of the deck and the fact that we are getting cards not initially in my deck, which activate Yungasaurus talent card, you know, the Genu Brew from the Genu Whale activates Yungasaurus talent card. In my opinion, Yungasaurus talent card is better for this deck than having the Black Rock Guy's talent card. And you can see here, Wolf Lord back to 9 HP, we've taken out Escoffier. My opponent is trying to go for the Tower of Ipsissimus. Ipsissimus, that's the name, alright. I will probably not remember that. But they are also running an adventure deck, but now that they can no longer freeze me, this has gotten much more easier for me, this match. Because now we just need to keep Wolf Lord alive and stack that corrosion. The Genu Whale will make sure that in the long run we will stay alive. Of course in this matchup we do not get that much Genu Whale stacks, but we do get some, thanks to the Seymour's present. You can see here Maiden being quite effective for this deck. As if you're wondering what artifacts we are running with this deck, we have both the 1 and 2 cost Nym Stream artifact and 2 copies. I think, well, was it just 1 copy? I don't remember anymore. 1 or 2 copies of Maiden's Fading Beauty, because we get the, of course, for the Genu brew, and because playing Maiden's Fading Beauty on the Jungasaurus is a good choice, because whenever it gains max HP, it activates the Maiden's Fading Beauty and heals your team. No need to go for Geo Resonance here. We have 9 HP on the Wolf Rod, and the Tower of Ipsissimus is at only 7 stacks. There's no fear of the actually terrifying Holy Blade. You can see there we played the Narcissus and Crew and got full benefits. Now you see Adventure, Rokkai got an HP, and we draw a card. We use our extra dice now because we have the 5 stacks and well, from the 4 stacks we got the free switches, so we can play our extra dice for another skill that now threatens to take out Nuvliat very, very fast. But 4 stacks of corrosion, like, it's going to add up as the rounds go on. Of course, if they do get the Tower of Ipsissimus activation, and they can just simply heal with the Holy Blade, but this is the reason why we are running Wolf Rod, guaranteed damage. And there we go with the 1 cost Nim Stream. This is the Fell Dragon's Monocle, what's the name? Of course, with this deck, when it comes to dice, we have no dice fixing. You go for whatever dice you get. You get Dendro, you keep it. You get Geo, you keep it. The only thing you really need to consider is the fact that you want to keep Wolf Rod alive until Jungasaurus has gotten a good amount of the buff stacks and max HP. Also, using the 1 cost artifact is good for the Wolf Rod, because you really only want to spam the skill and the burst sometimes. So the 1 cost artifact really works with this deck. I mean, not to mention also with Jungasaurus and the Rock Serpent Knight, of course, you only really want to spam the skill of each of these characters and the burst when it's available. And you can see here, even though we didn't activate Genu Whale once, simply keeping Wolf Lord alive and with the talent card, the Golden Corrosion, takes care of our opponent here. And I have to say, like, this deck works only because your opponent has no idea what is coming. The moment your opponents realize what you are actually doing with this deck, they can probably outplay you. Like, if my opponent had realized that I'm gonna go for double skill onto Escoffier, they probably would have switched characters there at the round 1. But they didn't, because they had no idea what was coming. But honestly, it was on them. The moment I played the Wolfforce talent, they should have realized that they need to switch characters if they want to keep Escoffier safe. But anyway, we have one more adventure for today. And for our last adventure today, we are at the Sunken Tower of Ipsissimus. Let's get into the last game. And here we go with my last adventure deck, and I think this is my personal favorite. Like the last one you saw, that is funny. That is a funny deck, but it's actually relatively boring to play. Of course, I haven't really played that much with the last deck, but it felt a bit boring. But this deck is fun. So at first glance, this looks like your classic Chlorind max HP increase with Siege Win and very nice here for whatever reason. This looks like a Chlorind carry deck, which it of course is. But there is in fact a great what should I say, deception going on here, because this is an adventure deck. We are of course using the fragment of Harmonic Whimsy to easily increase the HP of all of our characters. But with this deck we are going for the Tower of Ipsissimus. Why? Because it works goddamn well with Chlorind. You'd be surprised how well it works with Chlorind. Strike a pose! Like mentioned, we do go for the artifact plus skill, but I somewhat forgot that I actually threw away the card to switch Furina into healing mode when we played the Arcane card there. A slight mistake, but on the other hand you could also argue that it guaranteed that I got better cards. Or it increased the likelihood of getting better cards. Simply what it means here that it's a little harder to get more max HP on the Furina and Siegewin, but it doesn't really matter since Chlorine is the one we care about. And for Chlorine you want to play Nimstream.
Ready.
I also have Tenacity of the Millilith in the deck, but I've come to realize Nimstream is the way to go and you want to play it on the Chlorine. Why? Because it's so simple to use Chlorine to do multiple skills to get that full value of the double activation per round from Nimstream. Simply put, it just works. We don't really need any other artifacts, so replacing Timaeus after you've gotten the Harmonic onto Furina and Nimstream onto Chlorine is completely fine. Of course, I decide to keep one Timaeus here, even going later into the game, as there's always the possibility that I want to play another Nimstream on the Siegewin, on the Furina, or like I said, we have Tenacity here, so we can play that if we so wish to do. And you can see here, Tower of Ipsissimus is actually very good for Chlorine, because the attacks are anyway so cheap, and you get that double activation per round so easily that you get the +1 dice that Tower of Ipsissimus gives you whenever you get the adventure experience to an even number. Not to mention the Toy Sword, because it gives you healing and HP, that just makes it so that you can play it on Chlorine when she is in the Night Vigil state, and you easily get 2 Bond of Life stacks, which you can immediately skill for big damage, and of course HP increase from Siegewin in the form of another Bond of Life in this case. But simply, Tower of Ipsissimus in this deck works incredibly well. Do not bother with Genuine Whale. Just go for this one because it works. Though a noteworthy thing I want to say, with the Tower of Ipsissimus, you really want to run Varanara and or Liben, because otherwise it's very easy to lose the dices the tower gives you, especially if you are using something like Adventurer's Guild. If you are not using this card, then Varanara or Liben is not a necessity. If you are using Adventurer's Guild, Varanara and or Liben is a necessity. By the way, Seymour copying clearing gemstones, very nice. We can also use that to play it on the Chlorine for more max HP. But like this deck, this works incredibly well. I 5-0'd the Arena of Champions on my first attempt with this deck. Of course, I didn't face that many meta decks, so I cannot speak for those interactions, but you are gonna see here, once we reach the 12 stacks of the Tower of Ipsissimus, how utterly busted this deck can be. Like this can get so crazy as the game goes on. We went for Hydro Resonance to clear the Bond of Life on Furina and Siegewin, so that we actually have easier time in the future increasing their max HP with the Harmonic Whimsy, and we simply can do a skill with Chlorine, because it doesn't really matter. Also, you usually want to play the weapon as soon as possible in this deck for that extra damage, because the other forms of extra damage you have in this deck are the Adventure Complete with plus Nimstream combo for that +1 and Furina's Burst. But you really, if you get the if you see the possibility, go for the weapon. But if your dice, like in this round, I would have played the weapon on the Chlorine if I had better dice for it. But I didn't have, and I didn't want to play Countdown to Showdown just to play the weapon. And you can see here Varna takes care of the last dice the tower gives us. And now we have the Holy Sword, and this is where things get fun. Mostly because how cheap Chlorine's normal attacks can be, not to mention they are very easy to keep as charged attacks. Here I finally go for the weapon, and I actually go for a setup round. Why? Because 14 HP Chlorine is probably not going to be taken out by anything my opponent can do here. Not to mention we have the 5 point of life, so immediate +4 healing for Chlorine. By the way, here you can see the tenacities we have in the deck. Of course, like I mentioned, the tenacities aren't actually, they're good for aggressive matchups. But because you want to get the Nim's Dream on the Chlorine, they don't actually give you that much value, so replacing them for something else, maybe Marachusi Hunters, or maybe just the Monocle of the Fell Dragon. By the way, going for another tower, why? Because it gives us dice. We have no need for Genuine in this deck. Except, I mean, you can always argue that there's scenarios where Genuine is better. Opponent going all in with the Vortex Vanquisher, 14 HP Zhongli, but we have the weapon.
Into the shadows.
You can see we played it here in the Knight's Ritual state, so all the HP actually got turned into Bond of Life, but that doesn't matter, we can still use it to heal Chlorine easily. And because now we have the weapon and we have Tower of Ipsissimus giving us dice, our dice were even, so our normal attack just there was a charged attack, which means we get interactions like this. Box. And there we go. A double kill with 1 2-cost normal attack. 18 HP is Zhongli. Now some decks might be in trouble in this scenario. We are not. By the way, extremely good copy from Seymour, because now we can still switch characters. And you know, Bucks 8 damage with that
Anyone
one.
need a health checkup?
It's going to be over for my guy here. And now my opponent is basically forced to use whatever skills they do with Zhongli on the Siege Win, and after that it's very unlikely they'll have the dice for Zhongli Burst after a second normal attack, which they of course can do because they have played the
Into the shadows.
Underwater Treasure. We do go for a skill still, because there is the possibility that they can do another skill here. I mean, they do get 1 dice from Tenacity, and if they have, you know, Woven dice and or treasures, there's the possibility of another skill. So we do go for a heal first, but now we can just go for the charged attacks, which do a massive amount of damage. This deck simply just works. Of course, like mentioned, I haven't actually faced any that aggressive decks, so I cannot speak so well how you will do against those, but this has been my first touch to the adventure decks, and with that we are done for today. I'll see you all next time.